Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today I'm playing in the preview event for Marvel Superheroes, and this is a grixis colored villain deck. So we're playing a ton of villain creatures and various villain synergies, and one of the main build arounds is construct a cosmic cube, which is a 3-mana enchantment with a new plan subtype, saying whenever we draw our second card each turn, we get to create a 2/1 black villain creature token with menace, and we put a plan counter on this enchantment. Once the 7th plan counter is put on this enchantment, we sacrifice it, and then we get to control target opponent during their next turn. So an incredibly powerful effect once we can get to that 7th counter, and in the meantime it's a steady supply of 2/1 creatures that can attack and block. So this deck wants to be able to enable the Cosmic Cube both in our turn, simply by drawing 1 extra card, that's enough, in combination with our draw step, and then if we have some instant speed ways to draw 2 in the opponent's turn, we can maybe make another villain in that same turn cycle to also speed up getting to 7 counters total. So that's one of the main objectives for this deck. And one way to draw extra cards is by conniving with a leader Super Genius, a 4-mana 1/3, says if a creature we control would connive, instead we get to draw a card and then connive. Conniving already is enough to draw an extra card, and then at the beginning of combat on our turn, target creature we control connives. So we get to essentially draw 2 cards and discard, potentially picking up a +1/+1 counter if we discarded a non-land card. And leader also has great synergy with Norman Osborn from the Spider-Man set. Now we get to play with the actual Spider-Man cards. A 2-mana 1/1 that cannot be blocked. If it deals combat damage to a player, we get to connive, so once again drawing and discarding, but now with leader we'll get to draw 2 and then discard. And Norman can also be played as the Green Goblin or can be transformed into it, and then we can maybe replay cards out of the graveyard that we discarded this turn at a 2-mana discount thanks to Mayhem, so that also has great synergy with the connive ability. So Norman into construct a Cosmic Cube is a perfect curve, as we get to immediately connive and make a villain on turn 3 already to get the ball rolling. And then we also have some instant speed card draw with a Traumatic Critique, drawing 2 and discarding for just 2 mana, but we can also sink additional mana into it to deal some damage. And then 3 steps ahead has the flexibility of being a counter spell, but we can also simply draw 2 and discard with it for 3 mana, so that's maybe another way of enabling the Cosmic Cube in the opponent's turn. And then to find our Cosmic Cube a bit more reliably, we also have 3 copies of the Masters of Evil, which can be discarded from our hand for 1 and a black, so we can search our library for a plan card, reveal it, and put it into our hand. So turn 2 Masters can also set up our Cosmic Cube on turn 3. And then later we can also occasionally cast the Masters, giving our other villains +2/+1, which is especially a big game if we have a bunch of villain tokens from the Cosmic Cube, or perhaps from Avengers Under Siege, which is another payoff for having lots of villains. On Chapter 1, the saga generates a pair of 2/1 villain tokens with menace. On Chapter 2, we get to deal 2 damage to each non-villain creature and each opponent, so that can also be very impactful against other creature strategies. And then finally, we get to create a treasure token for each villain we control, so that can also add up if we've made a lot of tokens with multiple Avengers Under Siege or with our Construct a Cosmic Cube. And then as a nice curve topper, we also have Dr. Doom, which enters generating a pair of 3/3 Doombot tokens, which are also villains. And then as long as we control an artifact creature or a plan, Dr. Doom has Indestructible, so that also has great synergy with the Cosmic Cube. And at the beginning of our end step, we also get to draw a card at the cost of 1 life, so that's another way to draw 2 cards in our own turn to make sure we can keep enabling the Cosmic Cube in case we maybe don't have any of our connive synergies. And then rounding out the deck, we've got some spot removal with Requiting Hex, as well as Shoot the Sheriff. Interesting to note is that villains aren't actually outlaws, so we can still target them with Shoot the Sheriff for what it's worth. And then 1 Soulstone can also maybe help us ramp or later get back some of our key creatures. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The mana base also includes Oscorp Industries, which can be discarded and then played at the cost of 2 life with Mayhem, so that also has some cool synergies with Connive and with our other discard outlets. Otherwise, a nice mix of Shock lands, Verge lands, and the Stormcarved Coast entering untapped later, and a couple basics in case we need to search them up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand is not going to work with only 1 land. This is better. Could just get rid of Dr. Doom and keep all the interaction. So we can hex on turn 1. Now I probably just play this tapped. Opponent black-green. So yeah, don't have any of the new cards yet, but I'm sure we'll find some eventually. Cavern on Human is relevant when holding double 3 steps. And yeah, opponent's gonna apply some poison to us here. Don't have to remove it, but can take 5 poison and then we'll have to deal with the rest. I guess we'll play Norman since 3 steps may not be very effective. Opponent's got a Roaming Throne, which I would have been able to counter since it's not a human when on the stack. So Norman attacks. And maybe 1-3 steps can go, just so we get the +1 counter. Can always transform it into the Green Goblin for 4 mana. Yeah, opponent's got another uncounterable human. A little bit short of taking it out with a critique. Opponent's going for Norman here. So they can decide between a card in my hands or the Norman in play. Critique can be an answer. And yeah, I guess it also triggers twice thanks to Roaming Throne, so they can still take the critique. So our opponent taking both removal spells. And a Sniper also uncounterable with Cavern. 3 steps can just draw a discard here. Alright, so we found our Cosmic Cube. The Masters of Evil could get a second copy. Maybe discard the land then. I'll start here. Attack. And by conniving, we draw our second card to make a villain. Alright, so yeah, I'm tempted to just keep the Masters, ditch the Requiting Hex. And then I can get another Cosmic Cube next turn. They're confident, also human. So at least we're holding off Cloak and Dagger. I'm okay trading for the Sniper since we're about to make more villains. Another option was maybe waiting for a 6 lane to cast it. But yeah, just want to pick up some more counters here. A Leader's also tempting, since that can draw 2 extra cards this turn alone. Yeah, that's probably better than making an extra villain. And then keep my Watery Grave untapped. So I can maybe still connive here. Find Shoot the Sheriff and a land. Oh man, I think I want to keep Shoot the Sheriff, and of course I'm not going to discard the Cosmic Cube. So for now I discard the land and then hope to draw another one with Norman. Alright, perfect. So discard Soulstone, and then I have Shoot the Sheriff available, which can go after Cloak and Dagger. Don't have the mana to pay the ward on Roaming Throne. But yeah, now they can go for a Resolve on Roaming Throne and maybe fight Norman Osborn. They've got another Serpent Society. Okay, so if I want to take out Cloak and Dagger, I should do it now. And then opponent gets to decide what they want to fight here. So I'm not going to be able to pay the ward a second time since we already have 5 poison. And our opponent takes out Norman. Okay. So we can take out the Dark Confidence, either with a critique or the Hex. I think I still take 4 for now, just build up some more villains so we can maybe double block next turn. And another Masters is nice. So I think the plan now is to play Constructs. We get to connive making 2 villains. And then I could still critique in the opponent's turn to make 2 more villains. And maybe put a counter here, potentially. Now I could just discard the Oscorp Industries. Yeah, I could also just hex the Dark Confidant, to be fair, if we don't want them drawing an extra card. If I go for Cecil, then I have to sacrifice a non-token, so don't really want that to happen. So yeah, let's just go ahead and take out Dark Confidence, maybe with Blights onto Leader. And then pass with Critique, just to draw 2 discard to make a pair of villains. So this creature now cannot be blocked by more than 1 creature, but I'm happy to just chump with a villain. Opponent goes all out. So, good Critique before blockers. So, can double block Roaming Throne, chump Serpent Society, could chump Cecil or just take 2. This will transform. But yeah, the problem is if I trade for Cecil, then I lose Leader, which is something I want to avoid. So, yeah, maybe just take 2. And I guess Cecil triggers twice because of Roaming Throne. Opponent had another copy in hand. Alrighty, so yeah, I can get another Cosmic Cube as opposed to casting this to pump up my villains, which is another option. But I kind of like just going super wide here. Now the transformed Cecil no longer has Death Touch, so we can try to trade for it. And Leader triggers. Can just discards a lands. Probably not gonna play this with Mayhem anymore. And yeah, we're starting to get close to 7 counters to steal the opponent's turn. So since we drew a backup Leader, I can potentially afford to let the Serpent Society trigger. Opponent with a Serpent Specialist. Alright, and now Avengers under siege can make even more villains. Can wait to see what Leader finds. Couple of lanes. So yeah, next turn we get to steal the opponent's turn. And we're also at a point where we can maybe just attack all out with our villains. Cecil attacks. Yeah, I can trade since we have another Leader in hand. So deal 2 damage to all non-villains. Leader triggers. Find the 3 steps. And there we go. 7th counter. So I get to control my opponent's next turn. And for now can say no attacks. Make some more villains. So I'm now controlling my opponent. They drew a dragon sniper. So how do I not mess this up? Yeah, I can attack with a Serpent Society, or I can just keep it on defense at this point. Yeah, I don't really see a reason to attack. I can just attack all out next turn. What I can do, however, is make them lose a bunch of life for no reason. And these are all painless. Okay. So no attacks. Now it goes to my turn. It's not like Emrakul where the opponent gets an extra turn afterwards. We get 12 treasure. And now we get to attack all out. With 11 villains in play. And make that 2 more. So we could potentially chain together extra turns here as well. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and we've got a reasonable hand. Bit of removal early on, and then Avengers Under Siege into Doctor Doom. Well, let's see what our opponent's up to. Cavern on Merfolk, alright. So my counter spells may not be very effective. Can maybe critique for 1 next turn on the Trapper, so we'll hold Shoot the Sheriff to maybe answer something else. So I have to imagine they're playing with a new legendary Merfolk. Take 2. And a Duelist, we can Shoot the Sheriff. Let's just critique for 1 now to play around any potential interaction. Requiting Hex should be decent in the matchup. Yeah, maybe 3 steps is the weak link because of Cavern. And then Avengers Under Siege dealing 2 damage to their Merfolk on Chapter 2 should be pretty decent too. Yeah, there's Namor. So that one's gonna survive most of my interaction that I have at the moment. I think we still cast the Avengers Under Siege just to get the ball rolling. On Chapter 3 I might get some treasure, which can help cast Doctor Doom or maybe a Leader if we haven't found a second blue. Namor hits for 1. So this is also a villain, so I guess, yeah, it doesn't take any damage. Can try to construct a Cosmic Cube. See if we get to attack. They might have some Merfolk they can flash in at instant speed. So, opponent wants to untap Namor. May as well take out the Navigator. Our villains have Menace. So would really love another blue for Leader. So now with the treasure I could try and cast it. Or we could go straight for Doctor Doom, which end of turn will also draw cards, in turn enabling the Cosmic Cube. Alright, there we go. Can also 3 steps in my turn just to draw 2 discard. And now Atuma, Atlantean Warlord, giving other merfolk +1/+1. Opponent's gonna keep number on defense, and yeah, they might be too far behind at this point. Opponent's at 10. I cannot take out any of their creatures right now, so I don't necessarily have any amazing attacks. But I can just sit back on my instant speed card draw to make another villain in the opponent's turn. Even though we don't have double blue to counter anything. Making a copy of Dr. Doom can also be fun, just to make more Doom bots. So that's another play we could make. Now more attacks. Take 3. And end of turn we'll just draw this card. Seems a little safer than trying to target Dr. Doom. That's a lot of cosmic cubes right now. One of them can go. Alright, so I can finally cast Leader. Or I could just play 2 more cubes to make even more villains. But an all-out attack might be warranted. I don't think there's anything that really punishes me. They don't even have actual blue mana up. Could send in the Doom bots as well. Just send in everyone. Let damage happen, and our opponent's just dead here. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got what looks like a keepable hand. Turn 2 can play Norman, or Soulstone can ramp out Avengers Under Siege. So we'll start with the tapped Stormcarved Coast. Opponent also on a villain deck, or maybe artifacts. Turn 1 Springleaf. Yeah, let's get a Norman going, I think. Then next turn I could still maybe Soulstone plus shoot the Sheriff. So it might be more of a blue-red artifact deck. And the Ravenous Robots is certainly worth removing, but not before they make a token. So they do not have the blue up to protect their creature with a droid. So then I'm liking Soulstone into Shoot the Sheriff, even though Avengers Under Siege would eventually be an answer to the Ravenous Robots as well, and all the tokens. But I would rather play it safe and not let it get out of hand. Okay, so maybe 3 steps can go. Next turn I can also think about discarding the Oscorp Industries to play it with Mayhem. And then I've got a bunch of 4-drops I wouldn't mind casting. Opponent now with Ultron. Alright, that would have been a pretty good target for Shoot the Sheriff. Despite being a villain, it's not an outlaw. Although construct a Cosmic Cube is nice too. So, yeah, can still Avengers Under Siege or play a Leader this turn, so I get to draw 2 extra cards. It's also quite tempting. And then next turn we can start going wide ourselves. So I'll discard Oscorp Industries. Attack, Connive, drawing another card thanks to Leader. And what else do I discard here? Might be another Oscorp, or I could discard the Masters just to get a +1 counter. Since we already have 2 Cosmic Cubes in hand. So I could just play both next turn, make a pair of villains. We'll see what they try to copy with Ultron. It's gonna be the Assault Robot, pinging us whenever a villain or artifact enters. So they can pay 2 to make another copy. So yeah, those can add up pretty quickly, especially with an active Ravenous Robots. Fugitive Droid, unblockable hits for 1. Yeah, I think we still construct a few Cosmic Cubes here. Even though I'm probably going to get burnt out before I manage to get 7 counters. And, sure, we'll keep conniving onto Norman. Can discard an extra copy, although we could always play the Green Goblin as well. And then now maybe discards Leader if we want more +1 counters. Don't expect a ton of removal out of their deck. So I could make the play next turn of playing the Green Goblin, discarding Avengers Under Siege, and then casting it at a discount from the graveyard. Alright, now the improvised arsenal is going to be a problem. Especially equipped onto the unblockable droid. So I could be dead here. Because yeah, they can just equip 2 of them onto the droid, and that should be game over. Thanks to the Springleaf Drum. Despite it being a creature, it can still be equipped. Or not. I guess it doesn't work. Yeah, if you're a creature, it's not a reconfigure creature. But our opponent should still have it here with 9 going through. So, yeah, at most I can prevent 4 damage, still taking 10 exactly. But yeah, we learned something interesting here about equipment. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got 2 lands, can always draw more with a critique. Missing black mana. So I cannot actually cast a Soulstone right away, but I can cast a critique on turn 2, so I'll give it a shot. Opponent red-white, now we can go for Norman, and hope it sticks around. Opponent Jeskai colors, with Tony Stark, alright. So heroes versus villains. So Norman can attack, and then, yeah, cannot quite answer Tony unless we draw a black source. I can discard the Industries, play it with Mayhem, that's good value. This one also doesn't make black. So yeah, I'll discard the Industries. And then we can still critique in the opponent's turn. But they will get to activate Tony Stark. And an Iron Man armor will be attached as well. So now it's a juicier target for Shoot the Sheriff. Alright, so maybe one more critique can go. So now I can play Soulstone and Shoot the Sheriff, but we'll maybe attack first. Find a Hex, that also works. So, does that change anything? I could Hex, keep up 3 steps, maybe that's safer. So then maybe I don't want to Soulstone anymore. Can just hit my land drops naturally. And I'll do this now to play around any counter spells. Now the Iron Man armor can still become a creature, but I need more artifacts for that to be impactful. Opponent's got green mana in there. The Mighty Thor could be worth countering here. And Norman can attack, can also transform for what it's worth into the Green Goblin. That's maybe a better play next turn when I can transform, having discarded the Avengers Under Siege, and then still play it with a discount. So it's just going to be 2 mana total. Or I could play it now and then maybe get more damage out of the critique, which is also reasonable. So I'll just discard a land and then play the Avengers. So next turn 2 damage to each non-villain, so they don't want to play any smaller creatures out. And they've got another Tony Stark. A land is useful. We can go ahead and attack. And discard the critique. Transform, making sure to leave blue mana available. Shouldn't be a problem. And then still cast critique for 2, thanks to the discount from the Green Goblin to take out Tony Stark. Perfect. Opponent's at 6, and Dr. Doom showed up just in time. Next turn we get a bunch of treasure. Erode my Green Goblin. Should have an island left. And Thor, yeah, that's a nice one. Get back Erode, they can cast it next turn. So what can I come up with? Probably just play Dr. Doom and shoot Thor. Can preserve my treasure. That's not Dr. Doom. Could also play Norman, but I'll hang on to it in case of a weird board wipe. You never know. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Turn 2 Norman, turn 3 Cosmic Cube. Can immediately make a villain. Facing blue-white, Merfolk. Seems to be popular. So the Avengers Under Siege are going to be pretty effective. Opponent now with a Duelist. Now they could play another Duelist to pump up their team and then maybe survive the 2 damage. But yeah, for now we'll make a villain. And could discard a land. Another harmonized trio. And another Duelist, so yeah. 2 Lords means 2 damage is now not enough. But if we combine the 2 damage with the damage from critique, we could maybe take everything out. At least that's the hope. And Norman wants to attack to make another villain. The rest can play defense. Opponent now gets to prepare a Brainstorm. Curious to see if they have any combos with it or if it's just for value. Because there's not too many ways in Standard to manipulate the top of your deck, but there are a few effects that maybe look at the top card to maybe cheat it into play. So there's a couple cool things you could set up with it. If they're running any counter spells, they'll be looking for those as well to protect their Duelist. So best case scenario, I draw another removal spell, so I can cast a critique for 1 to maybe finish one off. And I could maybe still find a different answer. Of course, I could also have a 3rd Duelist or some other Lord. And then taking out 1 Duelist is not going to suffice. And yeah, opponent making another copy here with 6 command. That's tough. So then I will just take some trades. because I'm not guaranteed to wipe their board otherwise. So yeah, I can critique for 2, and then best case scenario still draw a requiting hex. Could also attack first. Sure. Dr. Doom, maybe something worth building towards. And then... don't think I have a preference between a real duelist or a token. Don't have any bound spells in the deck. Alright, so did not find what we were looking for. But we still dealt with most of the opponent's board. Now they've got the Pilgrimage to keep making more tokens. Take 6. A Mindspring Merfolk can also pump the team next turn. Shoot the Sheriff, that's a good one. So I can play Dr. Doom and still shoot the Sheriff. Norman keeps attacking. Could also discard something, transform into the Green Goblin, play something at a discount, but I don't think this is a turn for it. So a land can go. Possible our opponent's got the Merfolk with Convoke that can bounce a permanent. I think we still try Dr. Doom. And then, yeah, probably want to take out the Mindspring before they untap. So, can wait for the Dr. Doom trigger. Opponent did have a Navigator, as it turns out. So take out the Mindspring now. And then hopefully we can line up some blocks. I do only have 6 life to work with. I'm gonna lose 1 each turn from Dr. Doom. And now the Schooner, a way to crew their creatures to make more tokens with a Pilgrimage. So yeah, opponent's going incredibly wide. My best hope is still to wipe the board, but we'll see. So I could critique now to take out the Schooner potentially, as opposed to playing the Avengers Under Siege. Can also keep Norman on defense now, since Dr. Doom's gonna make a token anyway. But yeah, best case scenario would be Avengers Under Siege, and then take out another Lord to wipe the board. Problem is, I might be dead before I can set that up. Although I would get 2 more tokens here, so maybe that's still worth it. Can also critique in the opponent's turn to get another counter on the Cosmic Cube to maybe steal the opponent's turn. So we can figure something out. I guess I'm glad I left a token, since that one does not enable the Deep-Root Pilgrimage. You're another Cosmic Cube, up to 5 counters. So if I go to 6 in the opponent's turn, then 7 in mine, I get to steal their turn, which could maybe mess things up. But let's see here, opponent's got 8 attackers to my 9 blockers right now. So as long as I have 16 power in play, I can present lethal by just tapping all the opponent's creatures with a Schooner. Or do I untap target Merfolk? I guess I would still get to untap a Merfolk with a Duelist, and that's not optional. Opponent found another Navigator. So they can make a whole bunch more tokens. But yeah, if we're not facing lethal, then I guess the strat is still trying to wipe their board. So there's actually a lot going on here. Opponent does get pretty aggressive, sending in the Merfolk tokens. They get pumped by the Navigator. So I think now the plan is indeed to just deal 2 damage to everything and then finish off a Duelist to wipe their board. So I'll go to blocks. This one's indestructible. Something like this. Take my turn. Could also get another cube, but already have one in hand. Two damage happens. And then now we can critique for 1 to take out a Duelist, which will have a cascading effect. And then we can play another cube out. So now the only concern is dying to my own Doctor Doom. So I do want to get the game over with. But that should not be a problem. And I should even be able to steal the opponent's turn with cube getting to 7 counters next turn. But yeah, it's probably not going to be necessary. Alright, and that'll do it. Awesome. So yeah, we got to see this Grixis villain deck in action, and it has some pretty nifty synergies. The cube seems like a reliable way of making 2/1 tokens each turn, sometimes even multiple tokens in 1 turn cycle. There's some cool connive synergies happening, but the question is, how does it hold up once we move to the actual ranked ladder? And there it might be just a tad too slow, since it does take a while to get set up, and removal on some of your connive creatures can slow you down, so then it's possible we're better off going in a much more controlling direction and foregoing some of the creature synergies. But yeah, for now it seems like a pretty neat deck. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.